In this program, I will talk about media representations, one of the key concepts in media studies. Media representations are how media texts represent, more accurately, represent the social world. Media representations are the portrayals of events, people, social classes, minorities, ethnic groups, age, gender, sexuality, cultural trends. Well, basically, portrayals of everything. They give us characters, they create stories about social roles, gender roles, ways of living. They also give us a structure of beliefs and a view of social, economic, and political relationships. David Buckingham writes in his book Media Education that media do not provide us with a transparent window on the world. They do not just present reality as it is. Reality is represented. What we receive is selective, mediated, constructed versions of the world. This is true even in news and documentaries, because as Buckingham explains, media production involves choosing and combining incidents, turning them into stories, and creating characters to tell these stories. The production of media content also involves a lot of people. For example, the scriptwriter, the cameraman, the editor, the director, the sound engineer. All these people, the institutions they work for, and the societies in which they live have their own values and cultures. Therefore, media representations inevitably contain and reflect values and cultures of their producers and the institutions these producers work for. They invite us, the audiences, to see the world in some particular ways. However, this does not mean that we readily accept the meaning constructed for us. We may approach these representations with our own experiences, judgments, social and cultural backgrounds. We may accept some representations, or we may reject some others. The Full Monty tells the story of 6 unemployed men. These men are represented as excluded from places of work, leisure, and commerce. They are reduced to a childlike status and shown as victims of the economic crisis and unemployment in a context of industrial decline in the late 20th century Britain. The film overall displays the masculinity in crisis, the reasons for this crisis, and its consequences, and what can be done about it. When we look at The World Is Not Enough, the representation of masculinity is very different. James Bond confirms his patriarchal territory and celebrates his masculinity through daring action. According to David Gauntlet, Bond has changed very little over the years, although the female characters have become more resourceful. There are intelligent women around Bond, yet it is always James Bond who leads the story. I should also note that in Casino Royale, you can find a change in the representation of the male body. Well, James Bond's body. In this film, there are many scenes where Daniel Craig's body is objectified for the gaze of the viewers, something that women's bodies have long been subject to. Very rich examples of representations are also available in popular music. For example, when the Spice Girls first appeared on the popular music scene, their constructed image was associated with "girls are taking control." There are many books about media representations and many approaches to their analysis. Having examined some of them, I would like to suggest 4 categories under which we can examine media representations. The first category is presence and absence. This simply means who is present, who is absent, who speaks, who is silent or silenced. For example, in The Lord of the Rings, it is mainly the male heroes who try to save the world. Female saviors are few in number when compared to their male counterparts. In many mainstream films, for example, You Got Mail, Notting Hill, Mona Lisa Smile, heterosexual romance and the coupling is the main norm. Gay characters are absent or invisible. Even when they are visible, they are not depicted in depth or do not appear in leading roles. However, films like Brokeback Mountain and Amazon Prime and Netflix TV series like the women's baseball drama A League of Their Own and the sitcom Uncoupled give visibility to LGBT plus characters. These examples show that media representations do not stay the same. Studying them over time can provide us with an insight into the messages, values, and ideologies behind them, and to what extent they may change over time. We can explore presence and absence through a Marxist reading as well. In many films, TV series, magazines, and advertisements, capitalist status quo and class mobility are shown as the norm. The voices of the subordinate groups are missing. However, social realist filmmaker Ken Loach challenges this. For example, in Bread and Roses, he portrays how ruling classes and the corporate world exploit workers, and what workers need to do to create some meaningful social change. The second category, which can help us understand media representations, is stereotypes. Now, let's have a look at some definitions. Stereotypes are widely circulated ideas or assumptions about particular groups. A stereotype is a typical or mass-produced image, repeated so many times it seems to have established a pattern. It is simplified and highly judgmental type of representation. Stereotyping is a process involving the expression of an exaggerated belief about a group. In media text, the depiction of a certain group can be stereotypical. For example, in many classical Hollywood westerns, Native American Indians are mostly depicted as bloodthirsty savages. They are shown as a threat to the security of white settlements and the white community trying to bring civilization to the continent. Stereotypes can be challenged through media representations as well. For example, Pixar's Brave can be taken as a film that questions stereotypical gender representations. In this film, Princess Merida is the protagonist. She is a strong individual. She is interested in archery. She refuses to marry the son of her father's ally. She rejects the societal expectations regarding a woman's identity as a wife and as a mother. Now let me move on to the next category, which is positive and negative images. This is simply whether a social group is depicted positively or negatively in a film or in any other media texts. Michael Ryan and Douglas Kellner's analysis of Rocky, in which black power can be taken as a threat to white men, is worthy of attention. They argue that in the Rocky series, Rocky's attack against African-American boxer Apollo Creed, who is an embodiment of black power, can be taken as a metaphorical attack against black power. In addition, they claim that Rocky's plight in the film spoke to white audiences in the 1970s who saw black workers as a threat to their jobs. And the last category includes specific representational strategies. These are the techniques and styles of conventions of filmmaking, such as the camera work, lighting, and editing. All these might have an impact on how people or social groups, places, objects, and individuals are portrayed in the media. For example, in Alfred Hitchcock's masterpiece Psycho, the camera work, lighting, and editing, while Norman secretly watches Marion through a peephole on the wall, highlights a male gaze. This renders Marion into an object of desire. The scene shows Norman's gaze at a specific moment in the film. And the interesting thing is, regardless of our sex, we, the audiences, are made to look at Marion through a male gaze. In a similar manner, the montage in the bathroom murder scene reduces Marion to the status of a victim. Now, in this section of the recording, I would like to provide you with more practical ways of examining media representations. First of all, here is a set of questions which you can use when you study and analyze media representations. Who made it? When was it made? Where was it made? What are its social, political, cultural origins? What are its purposes? Who benefits from the representation? Whose point of view does it support? Who does not benefit? Whose point of view is not considered? Who or what is not shown? In addition to these questions, David Buckingham's suggestions can give us perspectives in any study of media representations. Buckingham suggests considering the following key areas. Realism. Is this text intended to be realistic? Why do some texts seem more realistic than others? Telling the truth. How do media claim to tell the truth about the world? How do they try to seem authentic? Presence and absence. What is included and excluded from the media world? Who speaks? Who is silenced? Bias and objectivity. Do media texts support particular views about the world? Do they put across moral or political values? Stereotyping. How do media represent particular social groups? Are these representations accurate? Interpretations. Why do audiences accept some media representations as true or reject others as false? Influences. Do media representations affect our views of particular social groups or issues? I believe that studying media representations can create a wonderful learning environment where we can study or explore how ideologies and values can be naturalized. When we study representations, we should not isolate them from social, political, cultural, and economic contexts. We should try to understand not only how they position us, but also how we might be positioning ourselves in our relation to the messages from the media. Please share this recording if you have found it useful. Thank you very much.